Your body is tired, but your mind is still awake. You replay the day, worry about tomorrow, and wonder why your thoughts won't let you rest. But tonight, you don't have to stop them. You can simply let them drift away with the rain. Welcome back to Moon Rest. I'm your host, William. Tonight, we find a warm little cafe where nothing is waiting to be solved. Only a quiet place to rest. So, let the rain guide you inside. The rainy evening at the Old Irish Café. There is a particular kind of evening that seems to exist outside of ordinary time. You may have felt one once, long ago, without quite knowing why it stayed with you. This is one of those evenings. Somewhere along the west coast of Ireland, where the hills fold gently into one another and the roads narrow until they are barely wider than a cart. A small village waits quietly beneath a sky the color of wet slate. The rain has been falling since early afternoon. Not heavily, not urgently, but with the soft, patient rhythm of something that has all the time in the world. You're walking along a narrow lane, your collar turned up against the damp, your shoes catching the last silver light of the afternoon in each puddle you pass. The stone walls on either side of you are dark with rain, slick and glistening, built by hands that stopped working this land generations ago. Moss grows in the seams between the stones, soft and green, and here and there a hedgerow leans over the wall, dripping steadily onto the path below. The air smells of wet earth and turf smoke, of grass and stone, and something faintly sweet. Gorse, perhaps, or the last of the summer heather clinging to the hillsides. Somewhere far off, a dog barks once and falls silent. A gate creaks. Then only the rain again, soft and steady, tapping against your umbrella, tapping against the slate roofs above you, tapping against the world. You did not plan to be out this long. The bus dropped you at the edge of the village nearly an hour ago, and you have been walking since, unhurried, in no rush to arrive, if anywhere in particular. There is something almost pleasant about being lost in a small place like this. Not truly lost, only pleasantly uncertain. The way you might feel wandering through a house you visited as a child, half remembering which door led where. The lane curves gently to the left, following the line of an old stream you can hear but not quite see, hidden behind a screen of dripping ferns. The light is beginning to change now. Not fading exactly, but softening, the gray of the afternoon deepening toward the blue-gray of early evening. Lamps are beginning to glow in windows along the street, small orange squares against the darkening stone, each one promising warmth to whoever lives behind it. And then, at the very end of the lane, where the road bends once more, and the hills rise up beyond the last rooftops, you see it. A small building, tucked between two taller ones, its stone front the color of old honey where the lamplight touches it. A single wooden sign hangs above the door, swinging very slightly in the wind, though you cannot read what it says from this distance. Warm light spills from its windows, not the sharp white light of modern places, but something gentler, amber and flickering. The light of candles and old lamps, and somewhere inside, a fire. You slow your steps without quite meaning to. There is something about that light. It reaches you the way a familiar voice might reach you across a crowded room. Not loud, not insistent, but somehow unmistakable, somehow yours. You find yourself walking toward it, drawn the way a person is drawn toward warmth on a cold evening, without needing a reason beyond the simple fact of being cold and tired and far from home. And here, in front of you, is somewhere that looks like it might hold exactly what you did not know you were looking for. The rain falls a little harder now, as if hurrying you along. You quicken your pace, your shoes splashing softly through the last few puddles of the lane, the umbrella tilted against the wind. Behind you, the hills disappear into mist. Ahead of you, the little cafe glows like something out of a memory you have not yet made. You reach the door. The door is heavier than you expect. Old oak worn smooth by generations of hands. It opens with a low, familiar creak, and a small brass bell above the frame gives a single soft chime. And then, the world changes. Outside there was rain and wind, and the cold, gray hush of an evening in the hills. Inside there is warmth. Real warmth, the kind that seems to settle into your shoulders the moment you cross the threshold. The kind that makes you realize, only now, how cold you had actually become without noticing. The cafe is small, smaller than it seemed from outside, with a low, dark beam ceiling and uneven wooden floors that creak gently beneath your feet. A fire burns in a wide stone hearth at the far end of the room, its light throwing soft orange shapes across the walls, across the old oak tables, across the faces of the few people scattered quietly among them. Candles flicker in small glass holders on every table, their light catching in the polished wood, in the copper pots hanging near the counter, in the rain still clinging to the small fogged windows. Somewhere, very quietly, a fiddle is playing. Not a performance, just a tune, drifting from an old speaker near the counter, soft and unhurried, the kind of music that seems to belong to the room itself, rather than to any particular moment. You stand for a moment just inside the door, letting your eyes adjust, letting the warmth reach you fully. The air smells of baking bread and wood smoke, of butter and cinnamon and something simmering slowly on a stove somewhere out of sight. Beneath it all, faintly, the smell of rain-soaked stone still clings to your coat, a reminder of the world you just left behind. Along one wall, shelves rise nearly to the ceiling, crowded with books whose spines have gone soft with age, their titles half faded, arranged with no particular order except the order of long affection. Beside them, tins of tea are stacked in uneven towers, their labels handwritten in careful, looping script. A vase of wildflowers sits on the counter, slightly wilted, clearly picked from somewhere nearby rather than bought. An old woman behind the counter looks up and gives you a small, unhurried smile. The kind of smile that asks nothing of you, that simply says, "You are welcome here. Take your time." You nod back, and something in your chest loosens slightly. Some tension you had been carrying since long before you ever reached this village. You find a table near the fire, not too close, just close enough to feel its warmth on one side of your face. And you sit and you let your coat fall damp and heavy over the back of your chair. You are early. You know this. But there is nowhere else you would rather be while you wait. Outside, through the small, fogged window beside you, you can still see the rain falling, softly now, silver, under the street lamp, but it no longer touches you. It belongs to another world now, one you can watch from a distance, warm and dry and strangely content. You settle back into the chair and, for the first time in what feels like a very long while, you are simply, quietly here. You're halfway through a cup of tea, watching the candle flame bend gently in some draft you cannot feel, when the bell above the door chimes again. You look up. And there they are, standing just inside the doorway, damp from the rain, hair slightly darkened where the drops caught it, coat glistening faintly in the firelight. There's a small, apologetic smile already forming. Sorry, the rain, the bus, though no words have been spoken yet. Just the smile and the quiet, familiar shape of someone you are always glad to see. They shake the rain from their coat before hanging it near the fire, next to the others already drying there. And for a moment they simply stand in the doorway, taking in the warmth the same way you did. The fire, the candlelight, the low hum of fiddle music, the smell of bread. You watch their shoulders soften, the same way yours did not long ago. You found it, they say, crossing the room toward you, voice pitched low to match the quiet of the cafe. I did, you say. Eventually. They laugh softly, not loudly, just enough to match the room, and slide into the chair across from you, still catching their breath slightly from the walk, still faintly damp, still smiling in that easy, unhurried way that makes the whole evening feel, suddenly, like it is exactly where it is supposed to be. There is no need for grand hellos here. No need for anything performed or polished. Just the small, ordinary comfort of someone arriving, a little wet from the rain, a little tired from the day, glad, quietly, plainly glad, to be sitting across from you. It's been a week, they say, resting their elbows on the old oak table, glancing toward the fire. A long one. Same, you say. I think I forgot what quiet felt like. They nod, and for a moment neither of you says anything else. You simply sit there, listening to the rain outside, the fire beside you, the fiddle drifting faintly from somewhere near the counter. It is not an uncomfortable silence. It is the opposite, the kind of silence that only exists between people who do not feel the need to fill every space with words. The old woman from behind the counter appears beside your table, unhurried, setting down two small menus written in careful, looping handwriting. Take your time, she says simply, and disappears again toward the kitchen, leaving you both in the soft orange glow of the fire. You glance up from the menu and catch them already looking at you. Not staring, just looking. The way you look at something familiar and comforting, something you are glad still exists. You both smile a little sheepishly and look back down at the menus, and somewhere beneath the table your damp shoes are already inching, very slightly, closer to the warmth of the fire. The old woman returns a while later carrying a tray, a small pot of tea, 2 thick slices of warm brown bread, a dish of butter already beginning to soften near the fire's heat, and a jar of honey with a wooden spoon resting inside it. She sets everything down without a word, the way someone does when they have served 1,000 evenings just like this one, and moves quietly away again. Steam rises gently from the teapot as you pour, curling upward into the candlelight before disappearing. The tea is dark and strong, softened with a little milk, and when you wrap both hands around the warm ceramic cup, you feel the last of the evening's chill finally leave your fingers. The bread is still warm from the oven, the butter melting into it almost the moment it touches the surface. And when you add a little honey, it tastes faintly of heather and something you cannot quite name. Something like the hillsides outside. Something like the rain itself sweetened. This might be the best bread I've ever had, they say. And you laugh because you were thinking the exact same thing. The conversation drifts easily from there, the way conversation does when neither person is trying too hard to impress the other. You talk about small things, a rainy childhood memory of sitting by a window watching a storm roll in, a song neither of you can remember the name of, but both of you somehow know the tune to. A road trip taken years ago that neither of you has thought about in a long time until just now. My grandmother used to make bread like this, they say, turning their cup slowly on its saucer. Not exactly like this, but close enough that it's bringing it all back. What was she like, you ask? They smile, looking toward the fire rather than at you. The way people do when a memory is warm enough to be looked at directly. Patient, they say. Endlessly patient. She used to let the bread rise twice as long as it needed to, just because she liked the smell of it filling the kitchen. You find yourself smiling at that, at the small, ordinary tenderness of it. A woman letting bread rise a little longer simply because she liked the smell. It is not a grand story. It is not meant to be. But something about the way they tell it, unhurried, fond, makes the whole cafe feel a little warmer. You talk about books for a while. One of the shelves nearby holds a worn copy of a novel you both read as teenagers, for entirely different reasons, in entirely different countries, and yet somehow arrived at the same soft affection for the same handful of sentences. You talk about music, about the fiddle tune drifting quietly from the speaker near the counter, about how neither of you can name it, but both of you agree it sounds like rain feels. Some of what you say to each other matters. Some of it does not matter at all. A debate over whether the fire is too hot on this side of the table. A disagreement about which kind of tea is best. A long, meandering story about a cat neither of you owns, but if both of you would like to. None of it needs to be profound. It only needs to be shared. Outside, the rain continues steady and unhurried, tapping softly against the small, fogged windows. Inside, the fire crackles gently. The candle between you burns a little lower, and neither of you notices nor minds how much time has quietly passed. Later, while the old woman clears the plates, you notice a small wooden frame tucked among the books on the nearest shelf, slightly crooked, half hidden behind a stack of worn paperbacks. You lean over to look more closely, and they lean with you, close enough that your shoulders nearly touch. Inside the frame is an old photograph, faded to soft sepia, the edges gently curling with age. It shows this same room, the same stone fireplace, the same low wooden beams, the same worn floor, but filled with people dressed in clothes from another era entirely, gathered around tables not so different from the one you are sitting at now. "Look," you say quietly, tilting the frame slightly toward the candlelight. It's the same cafe. They study it for a long moment, tracing the edge of the frame gently with one finger. "It doesn't look like it's changed at all," they say. The old woman passing by with the empty tray pauses beside your table. "That was taken the winter my mother ran this place," she says, her voice soft, unhurried, the voice of someone who has told this story many times but never grown tired of it. Same tables, same fire, mostly. We had to replace the hearthstones once, but the rest is original. "How long has this cafe been here?" you ask. She smiles, glancing around the room as though seeing it fresh. "Longer than anyone still living can properly remember," she says. "People have been sitting exactly where you're sitting, on rainy evenings just like this one, for longer than I've been alive." She pats the edge of the table once, gently, almost fondly, and moves on toward the kitchen. You both sit with that for a moment, looking down at the old photograph, then around at the room itself. The same fire, the same wood, the same low golden light. Somewhere in that photograph, decades ago, two other people might have been sitting exactly where you are sitting now, sharing bread, watching the same rain fall outside the same fogged windows. It's strange, they say quietly, still looking at the photograph. To think how many evenings like this one have happened in this exact room. How many conversations? How many people who felt, just for a night, like the rest of the world had gone quiet. And none of them probably thought it was anything special, you say. At the time, they look at you then, something soft and thoughtful in their expression. Maybe that's what makes it special, they say. That nobody was trying to make it a big moment. It just was one. You set the photograph back gently on the shelf, careful to leave it exactly where you found it, slightly crooked, half hidden, waiting for someone else to notice it one day. Outside, the rain has softened further, barely a whisper now against the glass. The evening deepens. One by one, the other tables empty. Quiet goodbye near the door. The soft chime of the bell. Footsteps fading into the rain outside. The old woman lowers the lamp slightly, dims the fiddle music further still, and disappears behind the counter without a word, leaving the two of you nearly alone in the glow of the fire. You move, without quite discussing it, to the low bench seat beside the hearth. Closer to the flames, closer to each other. The fire has burned down to soft embers, glowing deep orange, occasionally shifting with a quiet crackle, sending up a small curl of sparks that vanish before they reach the chimney. The warmth here is different from before, deeper, steadier, the kind of warmth that seems to settle into your bones rather than simply touch your skin. You pull one of the knitted cushions behind you, and they do the same. And for a while, neither of you says very much at all. Outside, the rain has softened into something barely audible. A faint hush against the windows, more felt than heard. Somewhere beneath that hush, you can still make out the low murmur of the stream you passed earlier, and further still, the wind moving gently across the hills. Your hands are close together on the bench between you, not quite touching, but close. The way hands sometimes rest when two people have stopped thinking about where their hands are at all. At some point, without either of you marking the exact moment, they do touch. A small, warm contact, unremarkable, unhurried. Simply two people sitting close together by a fire. I don't want this evening to end, they say quietly, eyes on the embers. It doesn't have to, you say. Not yet. They smile faintly and rest their head back against the stone of the hearth, watching the fire the way you might watch a slow tide come in, without expectation, without hurry, simply content to witness it. You find yourself doing the same, listening to the soft collapse of embers, the faint tick of a clock somewhere behind the counter, the almost imperceptible whisper of rain against glass. Neither of you speaks for a long while. There's nothing that needs saying. The silence between you has become its own kind of conversation. Warm, unhurried, entirely comfortable. You think vaguely about the week behind you, the noise of it, the hurry of it, the small, relentless demands of ordinary life. It all feels very far away now, on the other side of some quiet threshold you crossed the moment you stepped through that old wooden door. Here there is only the fire, the rain, the soft weight of a shoulder resting gently against yours, the unhurried, generous gift of an evening with nowhere else to be. The old woman passes by once more quietly, setting down 2 small cups of something warm, cocoa perhaps, or something close to it, without a word, before retreating again toward the back of the cafe, leaving you both once more in the soft hush of firelight and rain. Time in this room has stopped behaving the way it usually does. Minutes pass like slow water. Nobody checks a clock. Nobody thinks of tomorrow. There's only this: the fire, the rain, the quiet, and the two of you entirely and simply present. Eventually, though neither of you is quite ready for it, the evening asks to end. The old woman begins quietly stacking the last of the chairs, and you both rise, unhurried, gathering coats still faintly warm from the fire. "Thank you," you say to her at the door. She smiles, the same unhurried smile from earlier, and simply nods, as though thanks were unnecessary between people who understand each other. "Mind the wet stones," she says, "and come back when the rain calls you again." The bell chimes softly as you step outside, and the cold night air meets you gently rather than sharply. The rain has softened into little more than a drizzle now, fine and silver beneath the street lamps. You open one umbrella between you, and without needing to discuss it, you both step close beneath it, shoulders touching, arms brushing. The village is quiet at this hour, the lane glistening under lamplight. Puddles rippling faintly with each soft raindrop. Behind curtained windows, warm lights glow here and there. Small evidence of other lives, other evenings, unfolding quietly around you. You walk slowly, in no hurry at all, your footsteps echoing softly against the wet cobblestones. Neither of you says very much. There's nothing left that needs saying tonight, only the simple pleasure of walking close together beneath one umbrella, listening to the rain, feeling the last warmth of the cafe still clinging to your coats. The lane curves past the old stone wall you walked beside earlier, moss-covered, glistening. The hedgerows drip steadily, and somewhere beyond them, the hills have disappeared entirely into a soft, formless dark. Mist gathers faintly along the low places in the road, curling around your ankles like something gentle and half asleep. I'm glad the bus was late, they say quietly, almost to themselves. You glance over. Why's that? Because if it hadn't been, they say, we might have found somewhere else. Somewhere with better lighting and worse tea. You laugh softly, the sound swallowed gently by the rain, and lean just slightly closer beneath the umbrella. The lamplight catches the wet cobblestones in long, golden streaks ahead of you, and for a moment the whole street looks as though it has been painted rather than merely lived in. You pass the last of the shop fronts, dark and shuttered for the night, their windows reflecting the glow of the street lamps back at you in long, rippling lines. The rain falls a little lighter now, barely more than mist, and somewhere behind you, faint and fading, you can still hear the soft murmur of fiddle music drifting from the cafe you left behind. Neither of you walks quickly. There is no reason to. The evening does not need to be extended through effort. It simply continues quietly, one unhurried step at a time, beneath one shared umbrella, through one softly rain-washed village street. You reach the old street lamp at the corner where your paths will finally divide. One road leading toward the small guest house where you are staying, the other toward wherever they are headed for the night. You both slow, then stop, standing together beneath the soft circle of lamplight, rain falling gently around its edges. Neither of you rushes the moment. There is no need to. The whole evening has taught you both, without either of you quite realizing it, how to simply be present in a moment rather than hurrying through it. Thank you for tonight, you say quietly, the words feeling smaller than what you mean by them. They smile, the same unhurried smile from the doorway of the cafe. Hours ago now, though, it feels both longer and shorter than that. Thank you for finding that place, they say. I don't think I'll forget it. You stand there a moment longer, beneath the lamp, the rain falling softly around you both, neither of you quite ready to be the one who says goodbye first. Eventually, gently, they reach out and adjust your collar where the rain has folded it wrong. An entirely unnecessary gesture. Entirely tender, all the same. Good night, they say. Good night, you answer. They turn and begin walking away down the wet lane. Footsteps soft against the cobblestones, silhouette growing smaller beneath the scattered lamplight. You stay a moment longer beneath the lamp watching, the rain collecting gently on your shoulders, the warmth of the evening still glowing somewhere behind your ribs. At the corner, just before disappearing from view, they turn back once. Not for any particular reason, only to look. The way you sometimes look back at something simply because it was good and you are not quite ready to stop seeing it. You lift a hand. They lift one in return. And then they are gone, swallowed gently by the mist and the dark and the soft, steady rain. You do not feel sad standing there. It is not that kind of ending. Instead, you feel something quieter, a kind of fullness, the particular contentment of an evening that gave you exactly what you did not know you needed. Rain, warm bread, firelight, someone worth remembering. You turn at last and begin your own walk home through the soft, rain-washed dark. Later, in the quiet of your own room, you sit for a while by the window, watching the rain continue its slow, patient fall against the glass. The village has gone dark and still around you, most of its windows unlit now, most of its lanes empty. You find yourself thinking of the cafe, the warm amber light of it, the low wooden beams, the fire settling gently into embers. You think of the old photograph on the shelf, of all the evenings that came before yours, of all the ones that will come after. You think of the smell of fresh bread, of honey and butter, of tea poured slowly into old ceramic cups. You think of the music, soft fiddle, distant and unhurried, drifting through a room that has heard 1,000 quiet conversations just like the one you had tonight. And you think of them. The small, easy laugh. The shoulder resting gently against yours by the fire. The unnecessary, tender gesture of fixing your collar in the rain. The way they turned back once at the corner just to look a moment longer. Nothing extraordinary happened this evening. No grand declarations. No dramatic turns. Only rain and warmth and bread and quiet conversation and someone who made an ordinary evening feel somehow like something worth keeping. Perhaps that is the quiet secret of evenings like this one. That the ones we remember longest are so rarely the loud ones. They are the soft ones, the slow ones, the ones where nothing much happened at all, except everything that mattered. The rain continues outside your window, softer now, barely a whisper. Somewhere in the dark, the old cafe sits quietly with its fire banked low, waiting patiently for the next rainy evening, and the next, and the next. Your eyes grow heavy. The warmth of the evening lingers somewhere beneath your ribs, soft and glowing like the last embers of a well-tended fire. The rain falls. The village sleeps. And slowly, gently, unhurried, you let yourself drift. The way rain drifts down a window pane. The way firelight drifts into embers. The way one soft, ordinary, beautiful evening drifts quietly into sleep. If you'd like another quiet night like this, you can return to moon rest anytime. Sleep well, sleepy one.